Right. So once again, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome aboard LinkedIn Local India Online Lounge. This is story time session today on May the 8th, Friday, with none other than our very dear friend Mohit Gupta, who's the founder and chief curator of City Book Leaders. Uh, with us here today, we have lots of people. Immediately from the team, we have Vivek, we have Amit here, and Aditi here. So, hi once again, everyone. Welcome, and all yours, Mohit.
Okay, thank you very much, LinkedIn Local. I think this is an interesting concept. While we connect on LinkedIn, we can see each other offline as well, and I think that's what you guys do. And I've created a lounge around it, so I can see the level of friendship actually going up and up. I hope you have some other plans in the future as well to take it ahead. And from a lounge, we can move on to possibly a good restaurant, eating together, and, and so much so. Best wishes to every one of you here. It's good to see all of you, some of the friends, and as I mentioned, I have some college friends as well. So that builds in more pressure. So I'll try to do whatever justice I can do to this not so known study of flags. Bachpan se, since our child, I think everyone is okay if we use slight Hindi, slight English. Is that okay with everyone? Is that okay? Perfect.
बिल्कुल जी जरूर
So what I will do, I'll share the screen now and we'll take you to what we intend to do. So what you see is Jhande ke Fande. And since our childhood, and we see some children here in the session as well, since our childhood, I was very fascinated about why flags and what happens. And then I watched the movie, which was Lakshya, and I saw Hrithik Roshan saying, that's my Lakshya, and I have to put that flag there. And then recently, a couple of months back, as part of, you can see a huge world map in my room here as well. I'm always fascinated by geography because what I believe, whatever has happened to us in so many millions of years, it's only because of geography of Earth. Whatever we are doing, even today, while if Corona has transferred from one place to another, that's geography, nothing else. And we human beings are absolutely nothing in front of what Earth can do back to us. So it's very interesting that while we are trying to protect our own territories and our own countries and our own states, our own districts, but there's so much to do which is beyond that. And all our possession is always represented by none other than our Pyara flag. So that's where we thought, why not do actually Jhande Ke Fande and talk about those stories about which we don't talk. And a couple of months back, when I started reading about it, I did realize it is not so known as a study. Not many people, I have not come across who would say, hi, I'm a vexillologist. People say, what, do you do vaccine? What? Or what kind of science is this? I'm sure nobody would have actually spoken about it. And out of sheer curiosity, I was just searching, what is this? Let's do, koi to karta hoga. Is there some record to flags? And that's how I bumped into this study. And for the last few months, I've been reading few books, watching few videos. In fact, spoke to the only one vexillologist in India who gave me some interesting insights and tips about our own flag as well, and then connected to a few more people around. So when for the first time Preeti said, "Why don't you present something?" and I was like, that was like butterflies in my stomach. But that was too much for me to do. My job is to actually ask people to come and talk about books that they have read. That's what we do at City Book Leaders. But something for me to actually come and tell is like I was always a backbencher. I used to run away from lectures. So you can understand how terrific it is for me to replicate that thing. But yes, I'll try to do that justice. और जो ये छोटे बच्चे भी यहाँ इस सेशन में हैं, मैं उनके लिए एक थोड़ा cool teacher बनने की कोशिश करूंगा. I'll try to tell them that next time when you pick up a flag, you have a lot of stories to tell to your friends, boast it, or even if you are slightly bigger than a kid, you have a lot of stories to tell to your future wives or future husbands in the world. I'll try to do some justice to it. So vexillology, as it says, the study of flags. We take it ahead from here. This is not moving. Wait, yeah. So you see three different pictures on the screen. Now the first one is Captain Rakesh Sharma when he was on Moon, and this was for the first time the Indian flag was out in the space. It was parked at some other place. The second is a LGBT parade in London, one of the biggest LGBT parades that happened. And this is a remarkable picture, which has been remembered, published by Time and many other magazines. Again, it shows a spirit, but again, a flag is very common. And the third one, ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very unique. I don't know how many of you can guess it, but this was 9/11, exactly at the time of the attack. These three firefighters, this picture is not showing the third one, but these three firefighters out of the blue, they just picked up a flag and they just raised it there. Now, see the psychology. Now, what goes behind is it really worth dying for? Is flag is something that you carry as a symbol of your identity, your country's identity, or wherever you are, even in the most critical situations, the flag has given that identity to all of us. So that's how the entire study of flags and why the psychology of using a flag as an icon, as a brand image, is so important. So that's exactly what we will do today. But let me take you through some interesting history facts about the flag. And if you can read it, what you see on the screen is a flag is actually talking to the U.S. Secretary of Interior Franklin K. Lane, June 1914. It says, "I'm no more than what you believe me to be. I'm no more than what you believe me to be, and I'm all that you can believe I can be." Now, that's how the level of respect that also goes back into a flag. That's how you can treat a flag as absolutely superbly respected commodity or a thing, or you can disrespect any other country's or any other person's flag. It's all about the perception. So flag is just a denotion of what you feel about it. So now, since we are talking about the world and the flags of the world, on this world map, I'm trying to show you that we will traverse through various continents of the world in the next 25 to 30 minutes. What I have planned, and I hope I keep my promise and we stick to the exact number of minutes here. I will take you through multiple continents, and I've picked up some very interesting stories from each continent. Not exactly in any particular order or any preference, but yes, I am trying to figure out what could be the most interesting story when you relate a continent to a flag. So that's the format in the next few minutes. That's what we'll follow. But let's take a step back and how it actually started. So if you see, we are the oldest civilization in the world. Everyone knows we had a habitat long back that anybody could actually imagine as well, before the common era per se. But Ashok was particularly one person who made the emblems or the edicts a real symbol across. Of course, he was a conqueror. He was a Chakravarti Raja. So that's where you see the dots wherever he had an impact in the country, and towards Afghanistan, Kandahar, and towards the Middle East as well. And you can see a lot of concentration also of dots in this. And that's how Ashok is supposed to be the first person who took emblem very, very seriously and as a purpose of conquering the world and putting his emblem there, putting his thoughts and beliefs in the form of emblems or as a logo. That's Ashok. Then if you see, while the ancient Roman and Greek civilizations also came up, you see they were not carrying flags, but they were carrying emblems. And these emblems became the lead of the religion, their belief, wherever they used to conquer, the knighthood used to transfer and travel. That's what you see here on the screen. Then finally, a real flag came when the Silk Route was used very often. And prior to that, China had actually invented silk, or discovered silk, I should say. So silk was there. But altogether, if you go back into history, this was the same time when silk was still not a great commodity. It was only because of Silk Route, it was as a commodity it was transferring, and China had a great capability to export silk. But Indian cotton was the most it was the most precious thing during those times as well. The most of the trade that used to happen here, it was specifically for cotton. So those times the silk was overproduced, and people were looking for avenues where to use silk, and that's how the flags, they started using silk as a flag as well. And for the first time, silk came into fashion, and till date, even after almost 3,500 years we are using flags in silk. Of course, paper is there, but in the common parlance, silk is being used. So now coming to the terminology, of course, again, I'm talking about two civilizations, the India, the Chinese. They were still not going out. They were not conquering. They were not moving other than Ashok per se. But it was only the Europe and the Central Asia. These are the people or the civilizations that were moving out and conquering. So they needed some symbols to show to the world that, hey, I'm here. So if you see the first symbol here, the signum, which is actually the signal that used to give a signal to the world that the new conquerors are here. If you see, there was a hand on the top, and then there are number of circles. These circles used to denote the leaders of the army or the group. And in the bottom, if you see, there are a lot of small dots that used to denote the power of the symbol. Then, of course, related to God came Aquila, again a symbol of an eagle. People had lion, crocodiles, God knows and what. And then came the vexillum, which was actually a pole with a cloth being used on it. And then it was easy to replace. So, for example, I have to change the logo in this. It was easier. And that's how it happened. And they started carrying vexillum, and that's why the word vexillology, which is the study of flags, because these were supposed to be the first of its kind, the flags in the world, and that's how this term emerged. But particularly now, since before that, if you see in the previous slide, you can see symbols on this, but it was only in the Central Asia, and also when Islam was very prominent, say around 10th century, or say around that time, because Islam never used to have any idol worship, or they never used to have symbols like this. That's where the colors became very prominent, and they had bland green, red, Ottoman, the Persian, and then slowly and gradually, because of course there was a relevance to star and moon as well. So most of the flags in the Central Asia, you will see, will have bland colors, solid colors with very little logos on it. And we'll talk about Middle East as well in some time. But that's the background, the history of. Is it okay by now? Is this okay? Fine. Is it intriguing? Are you guys enjoying? Chalo, great. I can see some thumbs up. Great. So now let's come back to our dear world, which we all know is being united because of the most invisible thing these times. But I'll take you through Europe. Why specifically Europe? Because it was Europeans who started going out into the world. Of course, Genghis Khan did it for the first time, but he never made those long voyages as compared to the Europeans. So we'll talk about Europe, and also as Indians, we have been ruled by Europeans for more than 250 years. So it's important to take that Union Jack, and that's how we'll end with India and Union Jack as well. Now, this was the first flag of a country per se. Much before the Middle East also did, because prior to that, they were tribals. But England was the first one to use, and this is a typical Christian flag, St. George's, the cross. That's how it happened. They combined the Irish St. Patrick's symbol into this, and the Scottish as well. So that's how, if you combine these three, England, Ireland, and Scotland, what it becomes is a Union Jack. And if I'll just play with the slides, you see, it's combining. If there are kids in the screen, you can see it's actually fun. Combine these three and cut, so you get the Union Jack. And the whole world for next so many years, for more than 400 years, in fact, more than that, this Union Jack was everywhere. It never went down. So this is very, very prominent about this power. It also tells about the power of networking. It also tells about what goes behind what is power being fed with. Why is so the economics is so important in any revolution in the world? Just by studying alone this flag and the evolution of this flag, and seeing all other flags in other Western countries, you will just come to know everything that you were taught in your class, say 4th till your class 12th. If you had history in your class 12th, I never had, but yeah, till class 8th or 9th, you actually need not waste your time in that. You get so much perspective just by seeing Union Jack. So that's the story of Union Jack. But very interestingly, flag is something to die for. You cannot put it on the ground. You have to respect it like anything. Union Jack has nothing to do with that, right? Union Jack can be on the ground as well. It's absolutely not written in the rule. Go to their rule book, it doesn't say much about it. So again, a contrast. the whole world sees the flag in a very different way. The Union Jack is seen in a very, very different rule book or a playbook. That's Union Jack, the country, the flag that ruled all of us for so many years. Now, from Europe, I'll get back onto Europe as well, but let me take you to something which we now see as the biggest superpower after the colonialism was over, which is America, right? So, America, the history goes back to 1773, a Boston Tea Party, where 13 nations, 13 states combined together and announced their freedom. That's how it happened. 18th century, 1773, the Sons of Liberty. So for the first time, when they announced during the Boston Tea Party, and just after that, their flag had 13 rows. So you can count. There are 7 red and 6 white rows. These used to represent the states. And with a candor here, this block had all the stars here. So you can see there are 13 stars. Very simple. No rocket science in that. But you see a very interesting pattern here, that these stars were just not placed anywhere. They had a pattern. And what is that pattern? The pattern is this. So if someone asks you to design an American flag, it has to be done systematically. And there's a gap in between. The rule book says that how big the star can be. So like a typical, if I have some brand managers here, Gaurav will vouch for it. If people who are from brand background, they can always say, no, the logo has to be this, it has to be this different. So flags do value that, right? So even this has been done with very, very particular sense. I'll talk about China in some time. They're very particular about the angle of their stars. But this is, that's how America. But now a question might come, now to America has 50 stars. How did they accommodate these stars into it? So if you see from 1773 till 1950, they were just adding stars into it. They kept on adding stars. They kept on adding some stripes to that as well. But later on, they realized that they just cannot keep changing it. So the stripes remained constant at 13, and the number of stars were placed in the same pattern as it was in 1773. So that's the present. I'm not sure how many stars they want to add anymore, but yes, I still see Israel should be added into this. And since this is going on YouTube, there can be 1 or 2 more states that can go into this. I'm not sure how far and how soon that will happen. But Utah was the last one, that was 1960. And if I can do some poll, or I can ask question, or if you can go back to Google and search, which was the second last, we'll talk about that in a while. But meanwhile, you can keep searching about it. Which was the second last that got added into it, that you would love to know about it. So that's again about the North America, the biggest flag possible. And very interesting thing about this flag is that it is never tilted. Nobody can tilt this flag. In a parade, if you're walking, it is so unlike if you see Olympics, any team that passes, they have to put it down. You have to tilt it down. American flag cannot go down. That's about it. And if you relate it to the picture that I had shown there of 9/11, that's exactly what they're trying to lift it up. It is always to be lifted up. In fact, there was a World War II very famous picture where they're just lifting up the flag. So it cannot be tilted. That's the story behind it. And in fact, that's one of the primary reasons why during the Berlin Olympics 1936, something went very, very heady in terms of while Hitler was sitting there and the flag had to be brought down. No, boss, this cannot come down. American flag, no way it is. It cannot come down. And that's the resistance about this flag. The superpower, United States, we all look up to it. It's being worn. There are rules around it. People use it as boxers very, very often. But of course, question to all of you, is this the most burnt flag in the world? Is this the flag that people have used in revolutions the most? You will find some interesting answers. No, it is not. Let me give you a hint here. Moving ahead, moving on to our journey of continents from North America, let's take a dip to South America. And in the earlier civilizations, if you see our Vedic civilizations, this was the Patal Lok for us. If you put a hole into our country and you keep drilling it, you put a pole, keep drilling it, it will actually reach Mexico. That's why it was a Maya civilization. I was telling it to Preeti and Kalan Verma. So that's why it's a very prominent, interesting place. And that's why the color matches to our skin very, very often, the brown color. So it's again a very contrasting continent. And let's talk about the country which is the biggest there. Biggest coffee producer, everyone knows this is Brazil, right? Now see something very interesting on the flag. It's actually horoscope. This is the flag which they adopted when on this was the date or this was the position of stars in the sky where on above Rio when they got independence, when they declared their independence from the imperial rule of Portuguese. So now that's how it is being made. The green shows the green and the prosperity. The yellow is for the gold. If you all realize, the South America was always colonialized for its gold, Bolivia and other countries, because rich in gold. So that's what Brazil said, that we are rich in our natural resources. We have great land. We also have gold. So that's how this rhombus came up. And then came the seven constellations, Rio sky on 15th November 1889. And who says that we believe in horoscope? It is absolutely down there in Patal. Brazil also believed, and that's what the relevance of the flag is. So this is very interesting about a flag. It's not an easy thing to make. I can't make it. If someone gives me copy this, I might not be able to copy it. So let's move toward the easier flags that are there in the world. From South America, I will now take you to Africa. Okay, now Africa is not related to AK-47s. I have Colonel Amit Verma here. He would relate to it. He can see some charm related to this special gun. So from Russia, how it comes back to Africa. So ladies and gentlemen, kids and their parents, let me tell you, there is only one flag in the world that has a machine gun on it. Oh, sorry, the AK-47 on it. Any guesses? Any guesses? Any guesses? That's Mozambique. That's Mozambique. That's the only country in the world which is there with United Nations which has AK-47 on it. Now, why do they show it? They show it because they want to say that we are protected by our own norms. They don't show it as a militancy, but they want to show that we are educated. That's where the book is. They go buy the books. They have a favela there. They have a spade there, which says we are farmers. And then also they say Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan in their own language, I guess. I don't know the language, but yes, that's how this flag represents. And this is something very particular about Africa. You will always see black as a very prominent thing. You will always see green there because of its greenery. You will see a lot of gold and yellow in most of the flags there, and red definitely because a lot of imperial approach and also for the blood that they have shed and the kind of revolutions that have happened there. Most of the flags, if you pick up any of these African flags, this is like very, very prominent. In fact, the common flag of Africa always has these colors. Okay, now this is very interesting. This is a very simple flag between two greens, a white band. This is Nigeria. Now, why Nigeria per se? I'll tell you, there's a hero of Nigeria who was forgotten, and that's this gentleman, Michael Taiwo Akin Kunmi. He's the man who actually did this flag way back when he was studying engineering in London in 1959. And just almost 70 years back, Nigeria was named by a Britisher. It was a British journalist who gave the name as Nigeria. Let's call this place Nigeria. It had no name per se. So a British journalist just quoted, okay, call it Nigeria. Nile and Algeria, it's a mix of it. So Nigeria, it came out as Nigeria. So that's what you see as the flag here. This gentleman designed it. It was a competition that was announced by the then government. It announced that why don't someone design a flag for Nigeria? We are looking for a flag. So this gentleman raised his hand, living in London. He was studying. He said, okay, let me design something. And he sent it by post. So what he sent was not approved because he had a medallion in between as well. But then finally he got a letter which said, okay, this flag is approved. And now what happened after almost 35, 40 years, this young gentleman was doing a research on the Nigerian history. And Sunday, as this boy you can see, he started finding about who's that person who designed our flag, Nigerian flag. Nobody knows about it. And then he realized that there's a gentleman, now he's settled in Nigeria. He was called, Michael was called to Nigeria. He was given a citizenship there and he was working in an administrative services in Nigeria. But by the time someone would have realized he was living in shambles, he had some serious diseases, he was living in utter poverty. And by the time Sunday found about him, he was so intrigued, he went back, he searched about him, he wrote a blog about him. And that's how he got the National Hero Award, and in fact, that's how Michael was included into the top 50 most honored people of Nigeria. And then what happened? This letter was found, which was given to him in 1959, and there was a whole series of some editorials that came out, and then he got some money. So that's Michael's house now, which is a Nigerian flag, and you can see the level of poverty where he still lives, but still he's still okay to do. He can now manage. But that's about the story of a flag which was forgotten. Nobody did remember about him, and it's a very interesting story. You can see a lot of documentaries around it. So that's what has happened. But every other country has some pride attached to their flag, but this was completely forgotten. Who designed it? Nobody knew. It's just a regular competition. It happens in the school now. If you're making something, why don't you send us something? And you never know what it turns out to be. You never know. So now I'll start preserving my drawings that I do now, and people ask for. Though I draw very bad, but still there's a hope. You never know if I can be a hero sometime in the future. So from Nigeria and Mozambique, let me now take you to Australia. So that's what looks like Madagascar, and in between, let's fly to Australia. Something very interesting in this part of the world, which is because it was always impacted by imperialism and big time. They went there, and aboriginals and the original population was just finished. It was gone. So that's why this space has a special prominence to the new respect of the flag that is there. Now you see, what flag is this? I asked a question a few minutes back, that what was the second state that got added into America. Now this is that state, which is Hawaii. This was the 49th state that got added into the state of as one of the states in the United States of America. Very interesting story about it. This is the only island or the only place which was never colonized. It was only colonized for 5 months. That's it. And that too because of utter mistake. One of the British generals, he thought that this place is not colonized. The king is not listening to us. Let me bombard it. So he bombarded the entire island, captured it for 5 months. And then when his general came from England and said, how dare you capture this island? You're not allowed to do that. And that's how the king kept on using the same flag. So he kept the British, the United Kingdom flag, the Britannia flag. And since its proximity to America, he kept on using the same flag. So that's how this is the only flag which is a mix of both America and England. That's the hybrid model that we use here. That's Hawaii. Talking about Australia again, if you see Australian flag, and in fact you see Fiji, you see New Zealand, you see any other flag to that part as part of the Commonwealth, you will see the Union Jack being placed there and all other stars with their different positions. So you see 7 stars, 7 states of Australia. That's the story about the Australian flag. Again, Union Jack is very prominent. You see, that's the impact of imperialism and colonialism during those times. Now, from Australia, now let's get back. Now, try to shift to Asia. And if it's Asia, it's about either Russia. It's about so Russia is so big that I don't know how many of you know there are X number of time zones. Again, a quiz. Figure it out, search it. There are X number of time zones. You have to tell me what X is that. In a while, we'll discuss that. By the time you can search. So that's Russia. It's so huge. It's so big that you actually travel between time zones. Yeah, in India, there's no time zone. There's a difference of few minutes. But there are changes like ours. It's so big. So that's Russia. And if you see during the communist times and when Boris Yeltsin, once the USSR was broken into different states, that's what Russia adopted. And the story goes in a very, very interesting way that this flag was a very old flag, what Russians have been using now. But in between the 1940s, 1914, the Slovak, the Bolsheviks, when the revolution happened, till 1991, they were using this red flag. The red represents communist, and the star was definitely there, and the sickle and spade, which was there. So that's about Russia, a huge flag, multiple time zones. I'm sure by now you would have searched, but there are 9 time zones in Russia. This flag actually flies between 9 time zones and is everything that you just cannot imagine as a country. So just imagine the power of a flag across so many time zones, and keeping that power intact is something that is so brilliant about the history of this country. Can't talk much about China, when if you're talking about Russia, it is important to talk about China as well. And you see a similarity between the two flags, right? The USSR and China. And just imagine, people would have been seriously confused if they will travel from China to Russia. What do you know, from Russia to China? Arey boss, same flag hai, usi country mein hu ki bhi nahi. So that's why it's important for Russia to change it as well. But very similar. Now, this was the previous flag. This is the present flag, what you see on your right. And something very particular about stars. Very, very particular about the placement of the stars. I have not marked it here. But if you see, they are all in the same angle. All the 5 stars to the bigger star, the all 4 stars. And in fact, why are there 5 stars on China's flag? It's a very, very old story. From the prehistoric times, Chinese have always believed everything to be 5. They always believed in their mythology that there are only 5 kings of the world. So according to them, the one of the kings was India, that was Bharat. So we were called the country of attraction. We were the people who were always towards attraction. We were the people of love. And that's how they had 5 different kings. And so for them, 5 stars has been very, very mythological from prehistoric eras. So 5 is very prominent for them. And if you see, they are absolutely on one angle. Recently, 2006, it happened. The Chinese premier visited the country, India. He came here, and the position of these stars was changed. And he was in the meeting, and he could see that the position of the stars has been changed. The bigger star was diagonal. Sorry, on a mirror image, it was shifted to the right, and the smaller stars were brought to the left. So just imagine the Chinese premier, somebody missed the protocol. And that was the huge brouhaha created around the placement of the flag. Such those stories. So this could happen. The complete history can be revived if just one star goes slightly upar or niche. That's the power of a flag and the importance of a flag. Now, from the 2 large countries of, I'm keeping a tab on my time as of 5:36. Okay. So from the 2 large superpowers of Asia, let's move slightly towards Middle East. Now, Middle East, most of the time we think, Middle East hai, badi ladai jhagde hote hain yahan to, there's nothing in control. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how many of you know, but the stories of Laila Majnu and Shireen Farhad were from Persia. And what you see, while Shireen and Farhad, and it's actually a story, it's a story of a Persian king falling in love with one of the Armenian princes. It's actually a story, and it was produced as a fiction as Shireen and Farhad. Now, what you see in the hand of Farhad, which he's giving it to Shireen here, is actually a tulip. And this is the flower. This is the flower that's being used in Iran. And this is the flag of Iran, the Persia. And if you see, there are ayats written on both on the green part and the red part. And there's a tulip in the center of the flag. And I don't know if many of you would realize if you're someone you know, but Tulip is the best hotel in Persia, in Iran, the capital town. And so that's how a tulip, and there's a complete farming of tulip that happens there. It's a very, very prominent flower in this country. And this represents the openness of the country as well in those previous times, that how much they were inclined towards poetry, love affairs, and intercultural marriages as well. And that's how they were able to move out, and they were able to invade to other parts of the world as well. Okay, now this is interesting. How come a McDonald's be next to Saudi Arabia? So what you see on Saudi Arabia is the complete shahad, the shahada, which is written on it, which is La ilaha illallah. That's the complete sentence. That's the complete prayer, if you see. Now, that's, if it's on the flag, it cannot be used for any commercial purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, something very interesting happened. 1994 World Cup. And as the McDonald's, somebody would have been there in the brand, clicked off an idea, ki boss, itne sare log aayenge. This is the right way to build the brand. Everyone will pick up their own cups and their wrappers of the burger. So why not actually put all the flags on all these branding material? Saudi Arabia said this is not possible. It's not allowed. It's just not allowed. So next time, if someone here is in brand management or anytime you think of using flags anywhere, be aware to read all those rules. Huh? There are rule books as per the United Nations Charter. You have to have a rule book and a proper website for a flag. They missed out and they lost millions of rupees because they had to bring back all those t-shirts, all those packaging material that they had. And that's how McDonald's, actually M became a slightly morone M rather than the happy, smiley McDonald's. Okay, I know lockdown is going on. A lot of people would be craving for McDonald's. I will rush with this slide. This is interesting. From the Middle East, let's come to Afghanistan. Just imagine Afghanistan now, 1974, when they were writing the charter for their flags. It was important to write about flags, how and where the flag will be used. So somebody in their ministry said, okay, we approve that our flag can be used up in the space. We are okay with that. 1974, they were so optimistic. I'm sure present time, nobody would even think about sending a aircraft from or a spacecraft from Afghanistan. But 1974, see the optimism and the relationship with the flag. They pronounced that we are giving right to our countrymen. They can use this flag anywhere in the space as well. Unfortunately, they landed up at wrong places rather than the space. So that's what Afghanistan's and the interesting story is about. Moving from that, it's pertinent that from here, let's come back to this part of Asia, the only Hindu country in the world, and the non-rectangular flag. So if there are kids, this is a great quiz. This is the only non-rectangular flag. So difficult to make it. It is actually inspired by the ancient flags or the dhwaj, which were placed on, which are still placed on mandir. And now the proportion is changed, but actually it was Savai. It was 1:1.25 flag, and that's what you see, because 1.25 is a god number. It's a heavenly number. We use it very well. In fact, Savai means great. Savai means somebody who's knowledgeable, evolved. That's Nepal's flag. So from that Hindu to a completely secular country, let's move to our country and to our Tiranga, to which we have always saluted since our childhood, and if we are children, we are still doing it. Okay, so that's the evolution. That's our Tiranga. Just imagine when it was under Britishers, they used it like this. And then what you see in the 1906, the Vande Mataram, again, the two versions of it. When we actually, after the Bengal famine happened, Lady Kama, Bikaji Kama, on whose name this Delhi place is also named, she flew it in Germany. And the tricolor, where you see the yellow as well, this was actually designed by Veer Savarkar. And from there, it took the shape of a charkha, because 1931 National Congress said we need to have our own flag, the Swadeshi movement. And that's where the colors of religion was brought into it. But and finally, this was the flag that was approved even in 1947. But suddenly something happened. Something happened that Mahatma Gandhi, who always said that charkha is about Swadeshi, it's about our own cotton, it's about our own actual independence, charkha was removed by the chakra. Now, the Chakravarti chakra, which Mahatma Gandhi never approved, he said this is a representation. It's dharma, but still it's about conquering others. It's about going to places. It's about being Chakravarti. But against his own wishes, a lot of people from his own side said, no, charkha is a very woman thing. Kaun karta hai charkha varkha? We don't need it. And that's how it happened. But then this kept on flowing. And this is what we have been saluting. We have versions, stories about it. One of the GK questions, which in the class 2 or 3, it's being जैसे कहते हैं ना, मगोफाई कराना पड़ता है बच्चों, कितने स्पोक्स हैं, बच्चे रट के जाते हैं 24. So that's how it has been done. The biggest mistakes that have happened within our own Indians is that we have changed the colors. Green has gone up many times, orange has come down. Umpteen number of mistakes we have done. But this is still Tiranga, to which your heart beats for, right? But very interesting. If you think that after 1947, it was not used, the first time the Union Jack was taken down was not anywhere else, but along with the pole. We say it with the entire bag and baggage. It was taken out at a place where I belong to, which is Lucknow, on 13th August 1947, 10 o'clock sharp, at the Residency, which was a symbol of British resilience, because for more than 90 years, and in fact, this residency stood as the most resilient places to be shown to the world that, okay, Britishers, the Jack never goes down. The Union Jack never, the sun never sets on Britain or United Kingdom. But this was the place where the sun set happened on this Union Jack as well. And ladies and gentlemen, very interesting. It was done by a warrant officer, Ireland. Just imagine Ireland. You know, the Irish revolt that happens. See, imagine the Union Jack with all their pride for India as the country that they held for so many years. The flag, for the first time, the Union Jack came down by chap Ireland, and that too, the country has the same colors on their flag. What a coincidence! India has three colors, Ireland has three colors. The Irish people still revolt against the Union Jack. Now this is what is the full circle of life. It comes back. It anyways comes back. But okay, what I showed to here is the last flag and pole of Union Jack, right? That's what I've shown you. But let me tell you, there were what was the last, which place was the last flag the Union Jack was flown? Think about it. Okay, you may search about it, but let me show you. What about the fluttering Union Jack? Where was it flowing? Where was it flowing freely in India? And you would imagine it was 1947, 1950, 52. थोड़ा बहुत आगे पीछे लड़ाई वड़ाई में लगे हुए थे हम. हो सकता है 60s तक भी कहीं चलता हो. Oh, but to your utter surprise, it was Calcutta, a place called Little Awadh, which is Motia Burj, where the last Nawab of Awadh was annexed in his last days, which is still in Calcutta. This was the place, Matia Burj, Imambara, where the flag was still flowing till 1975. Now just imagine, after so many years of our independence, there was one place out of everything, from the place where our flag was invented, from the Bengal famine, the Union Jack was still flowing there. Some mistake, something happened, because this was with the trust that never realized, okay, let it be, let it flow, yaar. How does it matter? But somebody actually went back and there's still a plaque there. Just imagine what a utter coincidence or a sheer negligence it could be. And that's what is now flowing across. And I can bet there's no other place the Union Jack is flowing. So we are now independent, and that's what has happened. But and if you see, these are not the colors of any religion. You will see that these are three different colors. This is resolution, this is peace, this is prosperity. These are not the colors of a religion, which we most of the times we think that white is for Jainism, blue has been, the chakra is for Buddhism, the saffron is for Hinduism, the green is for Islam. No, exactly not. If you go read the flag charter of our country, you will get so many other facts that you will be mesmerized to know that this is the true representation of this country. This is the oneness of this country, which is still a miracle. Winston Churchill said this country in a couple of years will be 26 new countries emerging out of it. He always wondered how, and I'm sure his ghost must be roaming around somewhere in some place and wondering what is happening to this country. They are still intact. Now that's to the Indian flag. Now let me talk about, since India has been a place of Bharat, I called it Bha and Rath, which is Bha is the warmth, the Bhaskar, the sun, and Rath is the attraction. So we were people who were able to attract a lot of people. We were people of love. Now when we talk about love, we talk about the new age love, which was actually not new age. It was prominent here in this country and across the world in a very different way. It was a common life in this country. We have deteriorated our own norms, and a lot of other colors overshadowed us, but we are always rainbow people. We always believed in full love. So where is the pink gone? Now just imagine, this was the first time, this is the flag that is being used now. But for the very first time, when Gravy, the person who designed the flag, 1969, 79, this was the flag, and this was the spirit with which the flag was designed. Now the pink was always supposed to be there, though it is hot pink, it is about sex, it's about intimacy, but it was always supposed to be there. But something happened, and for the first time, when a huge parade was organized, the organizers were supposed to print this flag, but the fabric was not available. Now just imagine, the fabric was not available, and so that's how the pink went out, and it became the Vibgyor, the regular color which is now seen. And if you see the indigo and turquoise, it has been mixed to this color, which is now the 6-band flag. So this is the evolution from these many bands, the 9 bands, it is now the 6th band. And LGBT, which is now the new thing, And in fact, the White House decorated the White House with these LGBT colors. Now, this means that when the love is spreading, we are now understanding the value of respecting others, and we have to win each other, right? We have to win each other with love. So I'll come to an end with the flag which actually denotes winning, which is the checkered flag. Now, how and where the checkered flag came out? So there are two theories to it. The first theory is that checkered was a very easy rag which was able to make, and way back when the races started in the bicycle race or the horse race and everything started in America way back in the late 19th century, the checkered cloth was used to put it over tables in restaurants and taverns. So that's how somebody just used it. But there was a gentleman who actually did the complete research, and he was able to find out the first time the checkered flag was used for a race car, which was in 1906. And that's how the checkered flag was used. I have my own theory, I have bought in my own theory. I believe the checkered was a great prominence because of our own chess, which was this is an Indian game, right? 6th century, we invented this game. Of course, we were never used to play it on a checkered method. It was only when it went to Persia. And this was a game of winning, right? It was a game of strategy. It was a game of mathematics, mental maths, which we used to do. So that's how this checkered flag came. And we have been winning the world, and all the histories that happen, they only happen because of Bharat. And that's how I'll end. And I think I've overshot my time by a few minutes. But when it comes to India, that's it. So I'll stop a share. Now, have you take a few questions in case you have or anything? I would
First of all, Mohit, from everybody's end, it is like totally mesmerizing. There's so many comments on the chat saying that, there's so much of information. A lot of people never really knew. There are history buffs over here. There are all kinds of people. There are armed forces people here who are talking about, the Nishan, the sign and everything else, and they'll speak for themselves. But thank you so much. This has been eye-opening. My hackles are standing actually as I'm talking about it right now, but really appreciate it. Thank you. And Mohit will take questions, please. So kindly unmute yourself and let's have a general conversation, because this is what this Community Connect is all about. Let's talk to each other.
मैं नंबर नहीं मांगूंगा किसी से. I won't ask for marks. हो गया, मैं तो पास हूँ.
Mohit, you spoke very well. It was very well researched. And I had made a comment with reference to army, because in army, the core values are Naam, Namak and Nishan. Nishan is all about flag. और झंडा ऊंचा रहे हमारा. ये तो हमारी, we will lay our lives also for that flag.
In fact, sir, salute to all people in Defense Forces. India's Flag Day is being celebrated as the Armed Forces Day. That's what is a very interesting thing about India's Flag Day. It's about the army connotation.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mohit. I've always valued the flag, but you've brought it alive and you've brought in so many stories. Wonderful. And I do wish that whatever you've said reaches out to as many students as possible.
I would prefer that people do their own research, and let's have 190 people talking about 190 countries and their flags and bringing back the glory of one earth, which is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
This is a world of information that you brought to us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sridhar has a question. Yeah, Shri, please.
Yeah. Why does the Nepal flag not have a rectangle?
Okay, so what I have been able to figure out, have you seen flags over temples?
Yes.
The Puri temple, there's always a flag, yeah? Or in Ramayana, which you would have seen recently on your TV, you would have seen that in the chariot, there was always a flag which was two triangles together, right? Now, if one triangle is 1, the upper triangle is 0.25, which is 1.25. And if you have been to Jaipur, ask your father to take you to Jaipur, you will see Savai, all the Rajas, they are Savai Rajas. Now, Sava, हमको तो है ना, आपको कभी प्रसाद मिला है घर पे, ₹1.25 ले लो, ₹125 दे दो. You know why 1.25? Sava is a great number. It has a lot of cosmic connections to it. It is much beyond what we call about pi as a number. It's a number which is from Vedic eras. So that's why because it's a Hindu country, they kept on this flag as Sava, but now it is not exactly Sava. They have made it as two triangles now.
So I have a question, Mohit.
Yeah.
lot of these colors, when they were when the flags were formed, say 100, 200, 300 years ago or more, some of these colors or shades did not exist. The medium of printing was very different, and the chemicals or the natural dyes were very different. So how did they manage to hold on?
See, I think what I was able to see across many books, and this was a question that came to me as well. So what they have done now is that they have now defined a parameter as if it's a brand book. So there's always a RGB defined for each flag now. And if you see, that's what actually happened with the LGBT flag. The pink, the fabric was not available. So though it took a new shape altogether, and that's how the stories come up across all of these flags. But since earlier only the natural colors were used, in fact, some other session I'll actually talk about that red was the invention of India's, the Kerala. The South India actually brought the color red to the world, and how the British used the red as their own red. It was actually not their red. It is Mera Wala red here in Kerala from the Dravidian side. So I'll talk about it some other day. So colors, that's how it happens.
Interesting. Thank you.
Can you speak?
Yes, please. Yeah, Shreya.
That Brazil doesn't have a written constitution. The constitution was printed.
Okay. ये question था कि तुमने हमें information दी. Is it daddy?
I was just asking. I was asking what
ब्राजील का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन नहीं वो उसका हॉरोस्कोप था. ब्राजील का जब इंडिपेंडेंस हुआ था ना 1889 में, जब उन्होंने डिक्लेयर किया था कि नहीं बॉस वी आर फ्री नाउ. सो जो उनके स्टार्स दिख रहे थे ना ऊपर, आप अपने घर से खड़े होकर बैल्कनी में देखना स्टार्स दिखते हैं ना, तो उसको उन्होंने अपने फ्लैग पे लगा दिया. सो दैट्स हाउ देयर फ्लैग इज एक्चुअली अबाउट द पोजीशन ऑफ स्टार्स एंड द 7 constellations which are there. That's on the flag of Brazil. मैं ये बता रहा था.
And even Italy has 2 colors in their flag which India has.
Yes. Italy has red. It's not orange. It's not orange. And it's actually red. वो पास्ता, इटली से पास्ता याद आता है ना, मतलब कहीं भी पास्ता का रंग दिखता है तो पता लग जाता है ना हमको कि रेड और ग्रीन है. So that's the best branding someone can do of the country, with pasta to Italy. Just imagine it's red. It's not orange. Otherwise 3 colors वाले तो बहुत सारे हैं. That's a common trend. Yeah.
I think Gaurav has a question.
Ravi Shankar sir has a question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mohit, I had a question. Yeah, had great fun.
Yeah, Gaurav. Yeah.
Like super informative. Now I was just like wondering, when a flag gets damaged, how does one dispose of it? I mean, is there like a protocol? I'm sure there would be one.
Every country has a different protocol. So for example, since most of the times it's related to defense forces, the evolution has happened through defense forces. So it has always been related to the defense personnel the most prominently. When it has to be disposed of, there is a complete protocol. There are websites. So every country has to have a website of their own flag. And there's a complete manual as well. If you go to National Archives Museum here in Delhi, they have some set of books that have changed over a period of time. I have not seen it, but we will try to get this vexillologist of India to speak about it. What I have just shown you is just possibly 0.01% of what that person or the real person in vexillology would know. So there's a protocol. Every country has a protocol.
Yeah. So, Ravi Shankar ji, 1 second, Aditi. Ravi Shankar ji had a question after that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, basically another interesting aspect probably we should talk is change of flags over a period of time. There are countries like Myanmar changed it. I mean, yes. Burma to Myanmar, then South Africa. Yeah. There are a few countries which changed the flag. That has also got some interesting background to it. Probably
it's happening every year. There are changes in flags that are happening every year. Yeah. And that's what now possibly I have started now observing flags. So if I'm watching a movie and I see a flag, I see acha flag, let's see what does it denote to. So it's happening every time, sir. I'm sure now you would also do that.
Yeah. So this has started the interest in it.
Yeah. Aditi, you were asking something.
So it's an awesome session, Mohit. It's really great. So I also have the same question, that how to dispose of, because when the flag get damaged, because ये question हमेशा दिमाग में रहता है in our sense, like for Indian flag, कि सब इधर उधर पड़े हुए मिलते हैं. So what is there any process for us, I mean for India
no, so I think credit goes to Naveen Jindal a lot, because he is one person who bought that pride and courage to go back to the government. He was jailed for that because he flew the flag. He came back from America. He said, I will also put my flag. And in fact, he in that bout of creating the longest pole, which is now in Saudi Arabia has the longest pole without any support for a flag. He also wanted that for India, but at least kudos to him, he has been able to place it across many places. So as per the rule, of course, while we use that flag in our games or in our dharnas, it is not supposed to be thrown like this. It's again, let's go back to the first sentence that I had shown you, where the flag was talking to the Secretary Interior. You know, it's the way you take it. And of course, there are set rules that you cannot use the flag in any other format. Even the tilting of it cannot be tilted up to a position. There's a protocol on in terms of what time are you putting the flag up, what all places can you put up. So for example, all our national holidays which are relevant to the country, you can put your flag in your house as well, but there's a protocol to it, there's a dimension to that as well. It has to be 3:2. Every country has a complete rule book around it. Disposal is a very, very important chapter out of all of those. I couldn't think of any particular story of disposal at this point of time, but it's a good thing. I'll also search, you know.
Yeah, because this is very important. Is there any law, any penalty? Is there? I mean, by our constitution or anything? Kuch hai kya?
Most of them, you know. Yeah, most of them. It's a act. It's a flag act. It's a proper flag act. If you disrespect the flag, that means you're disrespecting the country. In fact, that's what you see. Many at times, America has put in the first case on a lot of terrorist basis the disrespect of the flag. And if you see most of the movies, what the judge comes and says, this is towards the disrespect of the American flag and the Constitution and the values it holds. You know, so flag becomes a reason of charging someone. It is definitely.
Yeah. Right. Before that, may I just request everyone, we'll take a group picture now. So anybody wanting to be in that group picture, please show yourselves on the video so we can take one. And just so to say another thing, we'll have time for just one more question after this, please. Request you to please connect to us, connect to Mohit. He's available on LinkedIn. If you want any more deep dives into any flag questions and anything else. Any readers out here? He runs City Book Leaders, which is a very good place for knowledge, does a lot of work around books and talks inspired by books and so on and so forth. So please reach out. With that note, let's take a picture and we'll take maybe one or maximum two more questions and we'll close for the day today. So sure. Vivek, it's over to you for taking a picture, friend. Go for it. So Vivek is going to take the picture. If we all look in our cameras, he'll tell us when. If we all look at straight away directly at our cameras, I think it will be good. Vivek?
Just look into the cameras and
so I will say, rather than a cheese, you should say chuha. You know, so chuha. You know,
or we can say flag. Or we can say flag today.
Flag.
We can say flag.
Hindi में बोलो झंडा डालना चाहिए झंडा.
झंडा. On a count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
झंडा.
Done. Great.
Right. So thank you. Who's next for the question, please? Anybody? Any question?
This side. So one question. First of all, thanks a lot for sharing a lot of information, which was very new to us. We thought that we are elders, we know everything, but this was completely new.
Shall I call you Mr. Gulati or shall I call you Mr. Bhutani?
Mr. Bhutani, Gulati, whatever.
Okay.
So, you like Mohit? So we were wondering, maybe you study a lot of history, I believe, because that is where the information is coming from. It would be very interesting, maybe if you can maybe take a session, maybe in future, about maybe anthems of the countries.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that could be an interesting topic to know about the backgrounds.
See, I have a cacophony. If I start talking about anthems, that's okay. But if I start singing, it's going to be a serious, Zoom band kar dega, block kar dega apne ko. So, but we will try to get some singers as well. And let's actually sing. This is a brilliant idea. In fact, anthems and flags, what Gaurav has also written on the chat, there's a serious correlation. In fact, our anthem has Tiranga into it. A lot of other anthems have been changed and molded because of the flags and the emergence of the flags.
Yeah.
So Mohit, let's collaborate on this and let's do a session, you know, not immediately. Let's sort of
we'll try.
collaborate and let's do a session and do a community connect again. We can maybe have more people come out and join us at that time. Yeah. Any other questions, please? Any other questions?
Mohit, which is the best story you have liked on flags?
The Nigerian, sir. I think Nigerian story should be a Netflix movie now. Just imagine a man who designed the flag of the country was about to die in poverty, and somehow a young boy, out of his curiosity, and life is all about curiosity, he came out, and in a country like Nigeria where there are challenges, you know, we are still better. He went back, searched everything, and brought that pride back to that gentleman. Is a story of resilience. Brilliant it is. I think if you pick up Indian flag, there are so many. So if I say the design is being picked up by V.D. Savarkar and Mahatma Gandhi together, you know, it's going on YouTube. I'm sure I'll get calls for this. But just imagine Nigeria, simple green and white, and a boy did that. This is amazing. And I would go for Nigeria.
Right. On that count, I think it's time to say our byes. Thank you everyone for being here today. Absolutely. Look forward to the next time. Stay safe. Stay
Thank you very much, Preeti. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.